Hey everyone, this is the Heroes Podcast. I'm so happy to be here with someone special today. It's Gavin Scott. How are you, Gavin?
I'm outstanding, brother. How are you?
I love that because that is your brand. Before we start, I wanted to just intro you. So Gavin is an inspirational leader and speaker, creating the opportunity for profound awakenings. He speaks his truth, completely changes outcomes for his listeners and for himself. And I hope he's going to talk about stuff that I've heard about. Heart-centered vibrations create the frequency for a life of abundance with financial freedom and fulfilling relationships. This is a mouthful, Gavin. Like, how did you start? Take us back to maybe the beginning, or have you always been like this?
Um, it's an interesting question. I think I have always been like this, just I haven't necessarily realized it and I haven't necessarily shown it. The short story, because we probably don't have time for the long story. The short story is I got into I had my own awakening in 2020 and I couldn't affect the outside world. So I decided to, go on internally. And there were just lots of things that I wanted to change. And so I took every webinar, summit, course you could possibly think of. I've studied with some of the greats. I just needed to keep learning, to keep getting knowledge about things so that I could see how that was operating within my own hemisphere. And then I would have the ability to change them. And it's really quite a profound thing. When you actually begin to see things and you understand how to change them, and then you do change them, and then you see the different results, you sit back and you're like, wow, I like that. That's exactly what I wanted. And then the great thing is you know how to do it again and again. So this idea or this awakening, this level of consciousness that I've gained, that I'm continuing to gain because self-improvement is a lifelong lesson. It is something that applies to everybody. Like the recipe is pretty much the same for everybody. So the questions are, how much do you want to change? And are you willing to commit to it? It's pretty much that simple. So I committed to going inside. I've changed my internal makeup. Therefore, my external world has changed. And, I'm doing things that people never thought I would have done. So for instance, in October this year, I just swam the English Channel. And, the impossible is not actually that impossible. It's actually readily achievable if you're willing to put your mind to it.
Now, how did that come about? Like the last thing I would have in my mind too. I'm a paraglider, by the way. I don't go into murky waters, but how did you get to this?
So it was the second lockdown in Spain, and the police were not marshalling the beach very well, which was lucky for me. I got to walk up and down the beach every day. And I thought that was a really nice way to spend lockdown. Speaking to people around the world, they were kind of locked in their homes or houses or apartments or whatever. So I had the fortuitousness to have that freedom. And one day I saw a light and it was just like, that's funny. I wonder where that's coming from. And it just so happened to be in Morocco. Bit cringeworthy. There was a light, the usual story. The light. But I basically followed it up with the question with, if you can see it, you must be able to swim there. And this is the really interesting part. I have no idea why I asked that specific question. No idea whatsoever. But suffice to say, my curiosity led me to do some research. And there's an official challenge called the Gibraltar Straits Challenge. It's 16 kilometers across the mouth of the Mediterranean. So that leads onto the Atlantic. It's cold water. There's some crazy wildlife in there. You know, there's all sorts of potential risks or challenges. So I decided I'd do it. I've always done adventurous things, you know. I've hiked, not climbed, I've hiked a lot of peaks. Everest Base Camp, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Fuji. So this was me kind of saying, well, we've done enough of that. Let's kind of be a bit more adventurous and do something we've not done and grow. So then, you know, if you're going to change path, you've got to kind of have a why, otherwise you'll never see it through. So I had a couple of whys. One was an internal, one was an external. The external why was really to see the world change for the better. Like, you know, I've seen places 20 years ago that I've seen in the last few years, and they are ruined by plastic pollution. And it's not only the fact that you have a disturbing sight when you see it, it's that this toxicity is leaking into our entire ecosystem and slowly destroying us. So people are worried about the age of the robot. I'm worried about toxic pollution from plastic specifically. So that was my external why. My internal why was really just to remove my limited beliefs about what my body was capable of. You know, I've always been adventurous, as I said, so I've done 2 steps forwards, 5 steps backwards in my physical progress. And here we are, you know, 3 months later, I've done it. So it is possible. You can change things in your life, and that's how it unraveled.
Love it, love it. And have you ever had a lack of self-belief, a lack of doubting yourself, lack of self-worth in maybe earlier years in your life? And if you had one or had it, how did you shift?
Great question. All right, it's time to get real, people. As a kid, not really. I was just full of bouncing energy and confidence and joy, I think, mainly. As a sort of adult, you know, university years, maybe, you know, I didn't have as much confidence as others with the ladies, so that might have, you know, taken me down a few pegs in that area. What is really interesting was my 30s. So I started a business just during the Lehman crash, actually, the financial crash. And I ran that business for 8 years. And I worked, you know, pretty much 20-hour days. Okay, not every hour in the 20 was hard labor, but, you know, it includes your alarm going off, going to the gym, part of your morning routine, which is essential for success, getting to work, doing your work before anyone else gets in, managing the company, managing all the projects. And then at some point late at night, you know, having some like dinner and downtime before you pass out for 4 hours and get back up again. So I think what happened was I actually, during that 8.5 years, kind of lost faith a little bit, which seems strange because I'm building something, you know. I look back on it and I think, where did I go wrong? And I remember my aunt saying to me, "Oh, you're doing so well, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." And most normal people, people in that situation would be like, you know, they might not show it externally, but inside they're going to be like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm doing it." Whereas I remember my response. My response was, everything is good until it's not, you know. Let's reevaluate when the projects are finished and the money's in. So in some weird way, if your listeners know anything about manifestation, I've created a time in space, time in the universe for an anomaly to occur. The anomaly isn't something that I want to occur, but I've effectively created this potential. So what ended up happening is, and this gets to the real flux of your question, is in 2017, we had a law change which affected my ability to sell the projects, and my investors scrupulously, I must say not illegally, but certainly immorally, decided to call the loans in. And the reason they did that was because I was past the date of last repayment. Okay, but in construction, your planning gets delayed, your construction gets delayed, your sales gets delayed. This is a natural kind of process. These are guys I've been working with every day for 8-9 years. So you expect them to be on your side. You've made them 20% plus a profit share. You know, these are really good margins at the highest levels that any investor could really ask for. So you're kind of thinking that they're with you on the journey. Well, they called in the loan, I couldn't repay it. They took my profit from previous projects, which was in the bank already, and then they took the final project away from me. So effectively, they took from my, not my personal bank account, but my business bank account, they took $7 million. So you can imagine, I've started my 30s and I said, I'm going to work my 30s and live my 40s. The reason I wanted to work my 30s was I wanted to be able to provide for a family, you know, have a sense of security, financial freedom, all of those kind of things. And what you see is I worked my 30s. Well, that manifested and came true. And now I'm living my 40s. Well, that manifested and came true too, didn't it? So after the bankruptcy, I traveled for a little bit. I was a bit, you know, I did 6 months in Southeast Asia. I did a 6-month yoga teacher training course in Costa Rica. And then I went out to live in Malaysia and got a job post out there. And it was fabulous. I used to travel around Asia all the time, you know, just get on a quick jet ride, like Scoot or something like that, and off you go. And on the surface, what everybody could see was this guy having fun. But actually what was happening was this lost lamb, or this lost inner child, was being suppressed from expressing himself and was deeply saddened. And so, yeah, there was a long period where my confidence was low, taken away from me, if you like. And, you know, I think part of it is recognizing that you can do everything you can to change the programming. But if it's been up here for 10 years, it doesn't get removed in 10 minutes. So it takes work. So I'm willing to put on the line and say it out loud to the audience. So there are times where I still question my self-worth. But I have the awareness.
Gavin, it's a very powerful share. Now, what I've heard, that you must have worked yourself to exhaustion, like that was then collapsed. And what happened after? Did you find yourself in Southeast Asia? I mean, the story that you're telling me is resonating with me so much. I traveled over 60 countries and I was on a soul search mission myself for probably 10-15 years. And it looked like the picture perfect life from the outside. I was very inspiring for others, but inside, satisfaction never came. So what happened? What has brought you? Have you searching help, or what was the breakthrough after this kind of breakdown?
Ultimately, it's universal guidance. You know, there's several times in my life where I've had awakenings, and I look back now, and the programming and conditioning has been so strong that I've had those awakenings and then got dragged back into it and then gone into the abyss for 10, 15 years, whatever it might be, until my next awakening. And I sometimes think, you know, if I had carried on with that first awakening on that path, where would I be now? You know? But the reality is, self-worth and confidence are some things that are built. You build them. And by going through these phases in life, I'm learning to deal with different challenges. Whether I'm meant to face them later or in another realm is irrelevant. They're being gifted to me so that I'm able to better experience later on. So, you know, it's not something I look back with sadness and think, oh, if I had have taken that different path, things would be better. I just look back at it and go, wow, they're smart. They were gifting me the opportunity, and I wasn't smart enough to take it. But the great thing about that is you learn from your mistakes, and, you know, just like a rodeo, you fall off, you get back on.
Wow. I think at times people are not ready to, if I look back, I had the signals have been all around in my life to really help others and not distract myself with other things. And I was lost over and over again. And I think my final awakening came from, seeing my patterns playing out on my children. That was the last straw.
Wow.
Times people need so much pain to then, you said it in the first sentence, I believe you said commit. Because that's what it takes. The rest is details, right?
Absolutely.
Do you want to expand on this?
Sure. So building a sense of self-worth and confidence, it's all about taking the evidence that you create along your journey and effectively being proud of that. I was listening to somebody last night or the night before, talking about I am affirmations. And I actually didn't like what the person said, and I wrote my own one down. Now, you know, I'm somebody that has been very successful at school, at university, at traveling, at working in corporate, at then running their own business, albeit it didn't end well, but it was a success. And, you know, then I've had this bankruptcy, and there are times where I just don't value myself. I don't love myself. I don't respect myself. And I had this kind of like mini epiphany when this I am affirmations was coming out. So my I am affirmation is, I am proud of everything I have created. Now, in the world of creation, you create your reality. Your personal reality is, your personality, as Dr. Joe would say, is your personal reality. So you can change your personality. You don't have to be the same person through your whole life, just like shakes shedding their skin once a year. So we can really transform into anybody at any point in our lives. And I think that's the greatest message possibly of the Heroes podcast, is that we're all in this together. And on our own journeys, we can choose which character we want to be. Now, I don't know about you guys listening, but I don't often like to be the character that gets written off in a plot. I don't often like to be the character that tragically loses their gamesmanship and goes off into the never land. I like playing the hero. Like, that gives me a greater sense of joy and fulfillment. And that's true for all of us, like self-worth and confidence. Ultimately, it's a choice. Yeah, there are things along the way that help you build it, of course, but it's your choice. So the hero in everybody's journey really decides what he wants the ending to be, or she, and they don't strive for it, they thrive on it.
I love to say sometimes that all of you listening, you have an empty book from tomorrow in your life. And if you start your life story, then you can do things different from tomorrow. But usually my mentor slaps me in the face and he says, well, abundance have been provided a long time ago. You didn't show up, or you're not able to receive it, or you're not sort of vibrating and able to find the $1 million business within 5 square kilometers from where you live. How do you see this? Do you believe that there is massive amount of opportunity, self-worth, or confidence, or maybe, of course, a few strategies in place in business?
Yes, in no uncertain terms, absolutely. I think business is very similar to life. Again, you've got to take the reins and you've got to decide who you want to be, which character you want to play. And if you want to be the hero, then it comes down to leadership. You lead that business or that company forwards. And very much in your personal life, it comes down to exactly the same thing. It's about self-leadership. So if you want to change your mind, if you want to change your lives, if you want to create new outcomes, then what is needed? The very first thing that's needed is a commitment to change. Now, with your commitment, what is your integrity to your commitment? And then what is your intention in between the two? And if you get the mix right, you'll go on that hero's journey.
Wow. So how are you helping people now? I mean, who are your clients? Help us to know who should contact you.
So I'm not anybody's therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. I'm a leader, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a creator. So what I'm doing I could go into everything about everything that I do, but I'll save that for another time. I'm going to keep it quite simple today. I am creating an environment for people to grow. Okay, this environment is going to be private. It's going to be very unique, but it's going to be safe and it's going to be secure so that people have the confidence to enjoyably share authentically with others. So what does that mean? I'm seeking, well, was 10 people, it's now 8 people. And to come in a room with people that you don't know and just be totally open and honest. Things that you might not want to share with strangers, you share. And in this environment, we're going to change together the way that we think, act, operate, react. Because as Joe Dispenza says, when neurons fire together, they wire together. So this is a 3-month mastermind that I'm facilitating for 10 to 12 people. And we're going to go through some of the success principles of some of the best mentors on the planet that I've been studying. So I'll be facilitating. And together, we're just going to learn and grow in this wonderful environment. So that's what I'm doing right at this minute. There are many other things, but if anyone's interested in starting February, then do get in contact, reach out.
Amazing. And so what's the next level? What is driving you now, Gavin? Like you probably already lived 3 lifetimes up to this point, but what would you be celebrating in 5 years' time?
I love this question. It's a great question. I'm not going to move forwards with predictions. All I will say is each day I'm committed to the practice of working on and within myself. And I would anticipate that through that work, I'll be doing things that nobody thought were possible. It's that simple. You know, my life's mission is to change 10 million lives. So you can't do that in a 10-person mastermind. You can start with it there, but you know, where I really want to go from a impact point of view is to be working with the highest business leaders there are. You know, really from a basis of thought leadership, really question leadership and at every stage. So I think if you can affect the top people in business, then you get the trickle down effect throughout the organizations, and that'll get me to my 10 million a bit faster. I'd like to think that I have a family in 5 years' time, but you never know. Maybe there's a lesson for me to learn there. I'm sure there's probably more than one. But yeah, basically, I'm just here to display demonstrable leadership so that others become suitably inspired to take on a sense of leadership in their own life.
And how can someone find you? I mean, I will drop all your details under the video, but share us. You got a website or LinkedIn, Facebook? Is there a book?
We've got a website, we've got the LinkedIn, we've got the Facebook, you know, in today's age, if you haven't got that, you're almost archaic. So my website is stayoutstanding.com. You can find us on Instagram, Stay Outstanding Podcast. You can find our community Facebook group, Stay Outstanding Tribe. My email is stayoutstandingpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can always ask Andre for my contact details. So there's many ways, but if you're genuine and you want to get in touch, there's nothing stopping you from reaching out.
Very powerful. And what else would you want to share if somebody is looking for their next version?
So
what would be the top 3-5 things to really take action on, look at?
It's quite simple. And you would have heard this 1,000 times and you'll hear it 1,000 more. Know your why, people. Why? Why do you want to change? Why do you want improvement in your life? Why do you want different outcomes? It's not just the surface stuff, the money, the makeup, the cars. What's really deep underneath? Sense of more joy, sense of more fulfillment. Like, you've got to really understand your purpose and have passion to seek out and play that purpose no matter what, because you're going to be tested and you've got to exude passion along the whole path. It's a game, Andre, you know, like I used to take this game very seriously and I wasn't good at it. And then I became a bit more jovial and I thought, all right, well, you know, let's see how it goes when I'm not so serious. And now it's much easier. So you got to know your why. And then once you know your why, you need to create a sense of awareness. You know, you need to become an investigator into your lifestyle. What are your habits? What are the patterns playing out in your life? You really got to be good at connecting the dots. And that's something we played as kids, you know, those draw books where you would connect the dots. Go and find the child within you, you know, because that child is still there. They never grow up and leave you. You leave them, or you believe that life forces you away from them. But that inner child is still there. It's with us our whole lives. So get more playful with things. Connect the dots.
Gavin, when did you decide not to be so serious? It's happened to me recently, to this letting go. What is the psychology? What the hell is going on inside when one is starting to, is that emotional freedom? Is it to do with inner certainty? Can you go into this? I'm really interested in your take.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd love to. Basically, what happens is we believe that we have to force the outcome. I want, I desire, I will have, I must make, I will be. These are all terminologies and phrases of forcing something to be something it's not. Now, how can something become something if it's something that it's not? It can't. So you are battling against the waves. You are swimming against the current. You are, I don't know, but you're making life tough for yourself. And really, this has to do with masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine energy says, I'm going to make this happen. And the feminine energy says, ease and flow, here we go. Now, how do you feel in the masculine energy? I'm going to make it happen. And how do you feel in the feminine energy? Here we go, ease and flow. Like, I feel better in the feminine energy. Ease and flow, here we go. If you can take anything from this podcast, maybe just take that one phrase, ease and flow, here we go. It's so powerful, but you have to create the awareness so that at the moment you require that message, you can bring it in to your behavioral patterns. You know, we talked earlier about I am affirmations. Again, behavioral patterns. So I really think the way to become more jovial in the way that we do things is to make the mistake and not succeed at conquering with only the male energy. That's how you do it. But, and here's a but, for all the listeners out there, you've got so many coaches and so many mentors like Andre and I that are able to tell you this stuff and help you cut down time frames, like help you to quantum leap, because we've made these mistakes. And so it's actually not necessary for you to have to. Only the male energy might say that. The feminine energy never would. So if you don't have a coach, get one. If you don't have a mentor, get two. Like, it's time for you guys to up your game and get serious about what it is and what you want and the character that you want to play in life. And it takes commitment, Andre. It does. It takes resilience, takes tenacity. It takes pretty much everything in the locker book of character to improve, build on foundations, and go to the next level. And people don't realize that they can do it on their own, but it's just a lot easier with a coach. And so that would be my recommendation. You can make the mistake. I'm not going to stop anyone from making mistakes, but I'm just saying, you know, you could save yourself a bit of time here. A month, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, I don't know. But it seems to me that in this wonderful, wonderful planet that we occupy, that we are having this human experience on, that we are enjoying through this body, the human vessel, the time is the most valuable thing we have, because when this game ends, you don't get another life. Humanity and Earth will cease to exist to you. And as a spirit of the universe, you will go off to another part of the universe and undertake whatever service is required of you and by you. So what is your service here? That's something for you to answer. And is it going to be served by the most authentic version of yourself?
Wow, this was profound. And I have to admit, at this pace, this took me 8 years. A mentor had told me before I came to Australia, that was 10 years ago, and I couldn't get it. He said, this is not how you create. This is not how you allow things to come. And I thought he's speaking in Chinese. But yeah, you summarized it, Gavin, so eloquently. You just gave the truth. And there is the faster lane when you are not repeating the patterns, and it's not going to be that painful. And I have to say, if you're serious about your life, then time is your life. Get serious about yourself, because it will go like fast. And there's that book. Have you heard of that book? I think it's called 5 Regrets of the Dying. And sometimes I share it with people just to bring more awareness to. It's written by an Australian woman, and I did hand it over to a few of my clients where I've seen they are not, that level of awareness has not matured to that level of taking action. 5 Regrets of the Dying, wonderful book.
5 Regrets of the Timing.
Dying. 5 Regrets of the Dying.
How do you spell that?
Dying. D-Y-I-N-G.
Okay, great.
I can find it for you just in case.
No, I got it. I got it.
You got it?
Good old Google.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for a good book.
Leverage.
The other thing really to tell the listeners is we are on this planet, right? And this is a pretty busy place. It's got busier this last century, unquestionably. And it's only going to get busier. You have the choice. You can allow yourself to be distracted or not. So this thing right here, this is the biggest distraction you're ever going to have. Second to this is probably your children. Okay. Now you can allow yourself to get distracted, or you can find a way that works for both to coexist. And you know, the resistance, Andre. Let's talk about this resistance for a moment, because people don't really understand resistance. So I'm going to say to somebody, leave this in your bedside drawer, first hour and last hour of the day, and don't touch it. Well, how could I do that? I couldn't possibly do that. Or, what are you, mad? Or, come on, man, it's my phone, I need it. Like, would you listen to yourselves, guys? What are you, crack addicts? Is this modern day crack that actually hasn't been given the terminology, scope, or definition that it is a drug, that it is an addiction? So you've got to get really clear on what it is that you want. And I don't want distractions in my life. So first hour, last hour of every day, this is in the bedside drawer and I don't touch it. The other day I'm lying down. It's late at night. I'm just listening to a bit of music. You know, the TV is off. I'm just kind of winding down. And I'm looking at my relationships objectively, you know, over the long term. And I met this girl recently. And I was like, well, this will be interesting. Let's kind of see where it goes. You know, let's progress things a bit more. Now, as it happens, she is extremely comfortable in my company. She says that she feels safe with me. I later find out that this is somebody that actually suffers from chronic anxiety. And we've kind of gone from friendship to therapist, which is a boundary I'm trying to put in place without hurting her or, you know, not accepting her feelings, whatever. But effectively, I realized that what most partners want is a safe environment to coexist. And if you can't provide that, you're unlikely to be in a successful partnership. And it was just one of those, it was a tiny little insight that just, because I've been clicking in the awareness in all the other parts of my life, and I just happened to be reviewing this part, this little insight came. And do you know what happens when you take those little insights and you put them all together? Magic.
Yes, you build the new version of yourself, probably a lot faster than ever before. Is there anything else, sort of a last golden, you've already done it, but did you want to share anything else before we finish up? Gavin, it was amazing to have you a guest here.
I've got a podcast as well. It's called Stay Outstanding. There's an episode on there called Stay the Course. It's a solo episode, about 12 minutes long. If I can impact you with anything today, listening to this podcast, I would say stay the course. There's going to be times when you're challenged. There's going to be times when you're feeling like you're going in the wrong direction. There's going to be times when you think it can't possibly be the best thing for you. The logical, the rational mind is going to intervene and say, don't do that to me, please. I really like it here. But what you're seeking is something entirely different, something so much more rewarding and fulfilling. And so what happens is if you listen to the rational and logical mind, you will find yourself in a world of chaos. It might not seem like that, but that's how I refer to a reactional state. So we have two types of people on this planet. We have the people who are reacting to life, and we have the people who are consciously choosing how they want to go through this experience called life. And those two have totally different outcomes, and they're It's all up to you. You can do anything, you can be anything, you can achieve anything. It's entirely up to you. And you're going to have distractions. You're going to have desires. You're going to have, you know, I don't know, whatever it is that you want in life, you're going to have distractions and desires. And really, you've got to have the integrity through your original intention to stay the course. Because I'm not going to lie, like, my transformation hasn't been easy. At times, it's largely just been me, you know? I've gone from a world of living in one of the world's greatest capital cities in London, and starting a business from zero and becoming a hero and running an $80-90 million company, to having everything taken away from me, to only come back fighting strong, swimming the English Channel, demonstrating leadership for others and in my own life, and just experiencing a lot more joy and fulfillment. So, you know, you're going to get distracted, but what's your intention and integrity behind your actions? Just, if you've got a life's mission, make sure it's pure, make sure it's a little spiritual. You don't want it to be mechanical, and stay the course.
Gavin, wonderful. Knowing the why, and I say, get your tribe around you. Gavin has one, I have one. Be around leaders who inspire you. Gavin, thank you very much for your time. I loved connecting with you. I hope to talk again. Thanks.